Okay, let's jump straight into the terrifying, blood-soaked world of the 2026 horror sleeper hit, Obsession, so I can completely break down its dark mechanics, hidden themes, and that absolutely devastating finale. If you love horror that really gets under your skin and just kind of stays there, you already know this film completely delivers. I mean, it's this slow burn nightmare that takes a super relatable concept, unrequited romantic desire, and drags it through the deepest, darkest mud imaginable. So today, let me explain exactly what's going on here. I'll act as your guide through this cinematic autopsy, peeling back the layers of this phenomenal movie to uncover what is really beating at its black heart. So let's look at how a shy music store worker named Bear makes a single, desperate wish that literally turns his childhood crush, Nikki, into a relentless, murderous monster. You know, we've all seen that classic romantic comedy setup, right? The underdog pines for the girl who's totally out of his league, and usually that ends with some grand gesture in the pouring rain. But Obsession takes that familiar trope, twists it violently, and asks a really dark question. What if that quiet desperation becomes toxic? What if you could actually force the universe to make someone love you? Well, the answer, as we see unfold on screen, is absolute carnage. Bear's desperation creates an inescapable curse that completely destroys the lives of every single person it touches. Section 1. The One Wish Willow. A desperate mistake. To begin this breakdown, we really have to start right at the inciting incident, which is Bear's tragic, panicked mistake right after denying his true feelings for Nikki. The object at the center of this whole story is actually devastatingly simple. The One Wish Willow is a supernatural token that, when broken, grants the user exactly one reality-altering wish. Now Bear, who is completely enraged and humiliated by his own inability to just tell Nikki how he actually feels, takes a massive, cosmic risk. He weaponizes this little token. He snaps it, and he wishes that Nikki desires and loves him more than anyone else in the world. Notice that he doesn't wish for her happiness, or even for self-confidence for himself. He essentially wishes to own her feelings. And man, the universe grants it, but in the most twisted, malicious way you could possibly imagine. Section 2, the rules of the wish. An unforgiving trap. Because obviously this isn't a rom-com, it's a brutal horror film. Bear's desperate wish instantly triggers this unforgiving cosmic trap. And the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the terrible bind our characters are immediately shoved into. The stakes are horrifyingly absolute. I really want to emphasize this. To break the spell cast by the One Wish Willow, the universe demands that one of these two people stop breathing. Either the Wishmaker, which is Bear, or the one affected by the wish, Nikki, has to die. There's no loophole here. There's no talking it out or finding a clever workaround. Once Bear breaks that token, he essentially seals a death warrant. And this unbending, rigid rule is the engine that drives the creeping dread of the entire film, basically turning every single interaction they have into a ticking time bomb. Section 3. Nikki's horrifying dual reality, the trapped soul. Now, what makes this movie truly nauseating isn't just the sheer brutality of it all. It's the terrifying psychological prison that Nikki is violently forced into. The real Nikki still exists somewhere deep inside that body. She's completely aware, but totally paralyzed, while this possessed, ghoul-like version of herself takes the wheel. We get these agonizing flashes of consciousness where she actually breaks character. Like in that deeply unsettling scene after she's seductively kissing Bear and taking off her shirt, the real Nikki suddenly surfaces. She is just engulfed by guilt and shame, recoiling from him in absolute terror, because she correctly interprets Bear as her ultimate captor. She even grabs a glass bottle at one point, desperately trying to stab herself just to end the nightmare. It's horrifying. She is literally a prisoner in her own body, forced to watch a demonic version of herself act out some guy's obsessive fantasies. And we witness the absolute ultimate tragedy of her stolen autonomy when this possessed, hollowed-out version of Nikki brutally murders Bear's only understanding friend, Sarah. Throughout the whole movie, Sarah is the one person genuinely trying to support Bear. But to the ghoul version of Nikki, Sarah is just an opponent. She's an obstacle standing in the way of her all-consuming obsession with Bear. So, Nikki eliminates her by crushing her head into an absolute pulp with a brick. It is a profoundly disturbing, visceral scene, and it cements the horrific fact that the real Nikki is just trapped in the passenger seat while the supernatural force commits unspeakable atrocities using her own hands. Section 4. Breaking down the ending. A chaotic final act. So Sarah's gruesome murder completely sets off this chaotic, twisting final act. Let's break down exactly how this finale builds to its terrifying crescendo, step by step. Stricken with intense guilt over Sarah, Bear desperately buys another One Wish Willow and actually begs his friend Ian, who, remember, had a casual fling with Nikki, to use it to reverse the curse. But Ian, who just laughs it off in sheer disbelief, selfishly wastes the wish on $1 billion. Cash literally starts raining down on them, proving the magic is real, but it's way too late. The possessed Nikki bursts in and just slaughters Ian. Realizing he is entirely to blame for all of this, Bear makes a choice. He takes a fatal intentional overdose of oxycodone. But just as he is slipping away, Nikki, frantic and acting entirely on her supernatural obsession, breaks her own One Wish Willow. She wishes that Bear loves her forever. Bear briefly snaps awake from this, reaching out to her, but then the overdose takes him. He dies. And because he dies, the universe's deadly rule is finally met. The Wishmaker is dead, which instantly breaks his original curse. And the darkest moment of the entire film hits right here. Bear's death fulfills that deadly rule, breaking his original wish and leaving a completely conscious Nikki to suddenly wake up. Just imagine the pure existential dread of that moment. She regains complete control of her faculties, only to realize she is literally covered in blood. She looks around the room and fully grasps the magnitude of the atrocities she was forced to commit. The brutal murder of her friends, the grotesque acts she performed against her will. The movie ends with her letting out this blood-curdling, soul-shattering scream. It's literally the sound of a woman realizing she has been an unwitting puppet in a horrific tragedy, paying the ultimate psychological price for a man's unchecked, selfish desire. Section 5. Curiosity kills the cat. Sinister foreshadowing. But to really, truly grasp the brilliance of this film, I need to peel back the literal gore for a second and look at the sinister, metaphorical foreshadowing that was hiding in plain sight the whole time. Consider the really eerie agency that provides these supernatural tokens in the first place. It's named Tabby Cat Curiosity. That is definitely not a random detail. It is directly mocking Bear. Think about the old saying, curiosity killed the cat. Well, in this narrative, Bear is quite literally the cat who is killed by his own desperate curiosity and his complete inability to just leave well enough alone. He goes out seeking supernatural answers to basic human problems, inviting this insanely dark magic into his life without even trying to understand the terrible cost. And my interpretation of that deeply disturbing scene where Nikki makes Bear a sandwich out of his dead cat's remains, it perfectly mirrors Bear's ultimate fate. I mean, it isn't just there for shock value. It is brilliant, grim foreshadowing. Remember, Bear's pet cat died earlier in the film from unwittingly consuming his grandmother's oxycodone. And at the climax of the film, how exactly does Bear die? He intentionally overdoses on the exact same drug, oxycodone. The whole cat sandwich scene is the movie's super macabre way of telling us that Bear and his feline companion shared the exact same doomed destiny. By seeking out that willow, Bear was actively inviting misfortune right into his own home, sealing his fate with the very same poison. Section 6. The true meaning of obsession. Toxic possessiveness. Stepping back from all the crazy supernatural elements for a minute, the film actually presents a brilliant, devastating double entendre about the destructive nature of possessiveness and toxic love. I absolutely love how this film modernizes the classic 1902 monkey's paw trope. The core lesson of the monkey's paw is that trying to force the universe to bend to your own selfish desires is only going to lead to catastrophic tragedy. The wishes granted are always tainted, right? They provide exactly what you asked for, but in the most punishing way possible. Obsession takes this classic concept and applies it straight to modern toxic relationships. It proves that trying to manufacture affection, trying to cheat the natural emotional boundaries of another human being, doesn't result in romance. It results in a complete nightmare. Ultimately, the true monster in this story isn't the possessed, blood-soaked Nikki that we see on screen. The true monster is Bear's desperation. Out of his own frustration, he completely stole a woman's consent. He robbed her entirely of her free will, essentially turning her into a hollow vessel for his own desires. The film brilliantly uses the ghoul Nikki's actions, like murdering Bear's friends and preserving their bodies, as a dark, twisted reflection of how extremely possessive people actually view the world. To the obsessed mind, real friends aren't human beings with their own lives. They are simply obstacles. They are opponents that need to be eliminated so they can isolate the target of their affection. Bear wanted Nikki all to himself, and well, the universe gave him exactly that, destroying literally everything else in the process. So as you reflect on the devastating existential crisis of that ending, and that final haunting scream from Nikki echoing in your ears, I want you to ask yourself this. When exactly does a harmless, unrequited crush cross the line into a terrifying, soul-snatching obsession? This film leaves us with the really unsettling reality that true horror doesn't always come from ghosts or demons hiding in the dark. Sometimes it comes from the quiet, desperate desire to possess someone who simply doesn't belong to you. I really hope this breakdown helped you appreciate the dark, masterful layers of this incredible film. Keep questioning the things you wish for, and until next time, keep analyzing.